Welcome to the Revelation of Hope podcast with your host, Alvin Bonds II. Join us each week as Alvin explores the relationship between leadership and families by interviewing leaders in different fields all over the world. Alvin believes that the success of tomorrow's leaders begins with the success of today's families.
Happy Independence Day, America, and welcome to the Revelation of Hope podcast. I am your host, Alvin Bonds II. Today is July 4th, 2017, and 241 years ago, on July the 4th, 1776, the United States of America adopted the Declaration of Independence. 13 American colonies decided we've had enough, and they banded together to create a new nation, the nation we now know as the United States of America. I can remember in high school, I hated history. As I've gotten older, I've become more interested in understanding and knowing the history, sadly, because it affects me. Unfortunately, we as Americans, we don't have all of the information we need to have at times, or we too often may take for granted our history. I was reading different articles this past week, and I ran across something, a letter written by John Adams to his wife, Abigail. It was doing the drafting and the adoption of the Declaration of Independence. So John Adams wrote this letter to his wife, and it reads, "The second day of July, 1776, will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. I am apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be commemorated as the day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore." And as you reflect on that note that John Adams wrote to his wife, we're living that. The fireworks that are going to go off tonight, the celebration, the barbecues, the drinking, everything that comes with celebrating the 4th of July or Independence Day in America, all of that is because a group of people decided enough is enough. And this nation was created. As we know, based on the history of America, life has not always been pleasant, and freedom has come with a price. And it's unfortunate, but it's a stark reality. And that some of the ideals that our forefathers created or wanted for this nation, some of those are yet to be realized. But that's up to us. It's up to us to advocate. It's up to us to educate ourselves. It's up to us to elect individuals to represent us. It's up to us, the people. We, the people. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Is that still true today? In our lives, is that statement present? That statement is the representation of the United States of America. But is it true today? As you celebrate this Independence Day, let's just remember the cost. Let's remember the cost. Let's never forget the sacrifices that our forefathers made, or even the sacrifices of our parents or grandparents or great-grandparents. Not everyone still feels free. Not everyone still feels valued. Not everyone feels united. It is up to us as American citizens to create a life that we want for ourselves. It is up to us to create a nation that we want for ourselves. What are you going to do? So celebrate today, have fun, be with family, be with friends, be with loved ones. Let's celebrate our independence. Let's just have an amazing, fun day. I appreciate your support in listening and supporting this cause. I am passionate about the things that I do. I'm passionate about leadership, and I'm also passionate about families. Today, I interview Frank McMeen. Frank is the president of the West Tennessee Healthcare Foundation in Jackson, Tennessee. Frank has held several leadership positions in West Tennessee, both in a college level and also in a ministry aspect, as well as in nonprofit. So welcome, Frank. Tell me what you do.
I am president of the West Tennessee Healthcare Foundation. I'm in my 19th year at the foundation. Came here from Freed-Hardeman, where I had worked for 14 years. And my last stint at Freed-Hardeman was vice president of advancement, which was fundraising, alumni relations, and marketing. And I've been president of a private Christian school and was also a campus minister and youth minister. And when I first got out of college.
Okay.
So that's kind of a varied history, but spent a long time at Freed-Hardeman and a long time at the foundation here.
Okay, that definitely is a varied history, and I imagine you've seen a lot of different aspects of life, and from ministry and to college and to the foundation. That's pretty phenomenal.
Yes, and it went from where you're dealing with your small church group, your youth group, to then being a campus minister where you were working with the student body on the campus, to the point of working at a university. And now I work with the foundation where we deal with 17 counties, helping to meet needs that are in our communities, in our healthcare system here, dealing especially with cancer-related issues and cancer patients, heart issues and heart patients, special needs children, and just typical children and critical illnesses of children at the Ayers Children's Medical Center, which is at Jackson General Hospital.
Sure.
So we still have a very broad area of focus. We are a community foundation, and so we raise money to plug into the healthcare system to meet patient needs. We don't do things that benefit the hospital system. We do things that patients that may be at the hospital or leaving the hospital, and then we deal with things in the community that are needed all over the 17-county area that the hospital serves. We have 5 chapters, and so in those communities, Trenton, Humboldt, Milan, Camden, and Bolivar, we have chapters that work in doing the same thing that we do in Jackson.
Okay. That is wide-reaching.
We have a broad area of service. Now, the one thing that's really interesting that is kind of comforting in a way is that the foundation helps people of all aspects. We help the poor. We help the elderly. We help those who have critical health care needs. And most of the time, we do not look at their age unless it's something that's restrictive on either for children or senior citizens, like we're working with Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, everyone is treated equally and respected no matter what their health care issue is. And I want to think that that's the thing about America. In America, you should be someone who is worthy of love and affection and being an American citizen, and it's not based on skin color, and it's not based on income. That's how it's supposed to be. It doesn't always work that way.
Yes.
But that's the thing about America, that liberty is blindfolded.
Yes.
And freedom is blindfolded, that we all. And so we, as nonprofits, we deal with all aspects of people, and we should not be treating one group of people special for some reason because they're either white or something special, wealthy. While we do go to the wealthy to raise money,
Of course.
we try to treat all people equally, which is a wonderful thing about our country.
And you're exactly right of the struggles that we have, because there's definitely still some separation, as you definitely see. There's so much of a need in the community, and I'm glad to see that you all are touching that need. And you mentioned in the positions that you've held, Vice President of Advancement and President of the Foundation. So I imagine, leadership is something that you recognize and deal with. When you think about leadership, what comes to mind?
Well, it takes a vision. You cannot lead unless you know where you're going. I'm having a senior moment here on the book, but it's talking about getting the right people on the bus,
Yeah.
the right people off the bus before you decide where the bus is going. Like in your personal life or in your business, you've got to have the right people there, and you get the right people. Like at the foundation, I feel wonderful about our staff. We have the right people doing the right thing, very conscientious, very dedicated to what they're doing, very committed. And but we have to have this vision of where in the world are we going with this, or you just sit there and kind of flounder. So if you have a business, you have to know how am I going to get from point A to point B, and figure out how does that business model work, because you just don't go into business or run a business without knowing where you're going. And so I would think that leadership model, you have got to figure out where in the world are you going and why are we going there. Like with us, the foundation has grown from, we're 33 years old this year, I think that's the right amount age, and we have just gone beyond the $37 million in assets. And we've had to do that by a business model that didn't really kind of come into play until almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
Because we were small and we didn't really know how do we do this. And it took a little while of massaging this organization to figure out where are we going and how we're going to get there. So now we're well on our way. Last year we raised just a little over $9 million. And we've got this model that works. And every now and then we have to go in and tweak it.
Sure.
Next week we have a board meeting, so we'll go in and we'll tweak some things. We're working on our budget for this next year. And we will tweak what we're going to be doing some, so that by the end of next year we're hoping that we'll be somewhere beyond $40 million in assets. And that just enables us to do more and more good things in our community throughout West Tennessee.
Definitely. And you reference the business model, and I think any successful business has to have some kind of vision or business plan. I'm curious, what model or what leadership vision do you have for yourself individually?
Individually, well, I'm getting to the point where I'm looking at retiring.
Okay.
And so I look at my goal of where I want the foundation to be when I retire.
Sure.
And the good things that it does. I remember when I was the campus minister in East Tennessee at a public school, a public college, we became the campus organization of the year. It took us 3 years to get there. And so I left there to go to work at Freight Hardeman, and I went back there to do a church, hold a meeting at a church in the nearby county. And I asked about the student center, and they said, well, it closed. And I said, it closed? And they said, yes, that it didn't have enough money to operate. And the board had hired a board member's son that couldn't find a job to run the student center. And the result of that is the gentleman couldn't keep his personal life in order, and he couldn't run a business, which was a student center was a business.
Of course.
And so the thing folded. And so I'm thinking, I want the foundation to be large enough that you cannot screw this up. It will be here for a long time. So we're on this model of growing the foundation with endowments.
Okay.
We endow things. An endowment is a block of dollars that's invested, and then you live off of a portion of the income that it creates, and then you allow the endowment to grow.
Sure.
So we started doing that 20 years ago and focusing on endowments, and so slowly we did 5 million and 10 million, 15. So we've achieved 37 million, and I'm hoping that by the end of this next calendar year we'll be at 40 million. And my goal was to get to 100 million, but I don't think in the time that I have left and that I can see that we have a model that will get us there.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that we'll have at least around 50 million by the time I retire. But you have to do that with a plan.
Sure.
You have to put something together, and that model has to work. And our model has worked in many ways, and we'll benefit from that. And so that's kind of a personal plan of mine with foundation.
Okay. I'm interested in hearing about work-life balance. You know, you've talked about this model for the foundation. I wonder how do you transfer the leadership model into your personal life?
That's where I probably am not the best, because my life basically work. And you have the work of the foundation, and then I've lived in Jackson since 1991, and I started by renovating a house, and I saw an area of the community that was just really a wonderful area to live in, Midtown.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bought a house, and then bought another house, and no one or people weren't trying to move to Midtown, and so I started buying homes and slowly renovating them and renting them out, lived in some, sold some. So I'm currently working on a Victorian house, and we'll finish that one and work on one more house for me to live in. I have my house up for sale, and I'll be reinvesting that back into another house that Midtown needs to save. And so I spend a lot of my time working, but doing things that I enjoy doing, like in a renovation of a house. Sometimes it's tiring, but to me, it's kind of I get to fix that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this today, that in my life, in my professional life, sometimes we get to fix broken nonprofits, broken people's lives, broken family lives, broken children, try to put their lives back together, because they're dealing with Alzheimer's, trying to fix those issues that you deal with. So in my professional life, it's about fixing, and I'm thinking in my personal life is fixing and repairing and keeping a vital part of our community vibrant and useful and not decayed and to tear it down. And I have friends that wonder, like, how in the world do you do that? Well, I enjoy it, but we have a neat part of the community that I think needs to be saved. Just like in people, there are people with some very broken parts of their life.
Yes.
And we do a whole lot of things to try to repair those broken places, either broken hearts, dealing with mental issues of Alzheimer's, or things that have to deal with pathways. We spend a lot of effort in trying to make a positive impact on a human life, and I feel the same way that we need to spend a good amount of time about repairing neighborhood communities, because those human lives that we are concerned about live in neighborhoods, and sometimes neighborhoods change and they have these cycles they go through.
Yes.
And so we have to go in there at a low point and try to help that spark that change. And we've seen that change happen in downtown Atlanta. Our Atlanta Area Neighborhood Association has been working for 20-something years, 25 years, in revitalizing the Midtown area.
Yes.
So anyway, that's what I do personally. And then the spiritual part of my life is important. And having made some recent spiritual changes that were healthy for me, and while there were some things that caused some change or caused me to want to make some changes, that was very healthy.
Good.
And created a deeper faith, and where instead of a frustration that I was feeling prior, and so sometimes we have to go through a tough time to find a better time.
Yeah.
And so spiritually, when I was going through a tough spiritual time, coming out on the other side to what I found to be a very bright, vibrant faith is very good. Has been very good.
And I think any of us can relate to that experience. It's just like repairing and restoring the houses that you talked about. They may be in a broke down shape, or just even needing a few touch ups here or there. But it's you taking the time to invest in revitalizing, and you've done that with the Midtown community. I personally have driven through there recently, and of course with the U of M campus and just the things that have changed. It's a different place, and
it is a different place.
It's a community.
And there are pockets where I wish change would happen a little quicker, and it will happen. And in some of the areas that I think are more slum lord oriented, there's some money there, and so you've got to break that cycle where something gets the slum lord away so that you can get quality housing for people of every income.
Sure.
And that's the nice thing about Midtown. You have slumlords and pockets of those, but you have some affordable housing that's good, and you have some housing stock that's very good. And you have people that are very committed to keeping this heritage of Midtown alive, because it's good for our community to save a historic home or to save a college campus. Because if you don't, you begin to see blight, and you begin to see all the other problems of not, or it's like your body. If you don't take care of your body, you're going to end up with some major health problems. The same thing happens in society, where you have neighborhoods that are depressed, and you have people that are just pulling stuff out of, just taking money out of rent and subsidies and never putting anything back in and revitalizing that community. It destroys it. And it's nice to see the Atlanta neighborhood and other neighborhoods in Jackson putting money and time and effort of making their neighborhood and their street a much better place.
Yeah. And this attitude or personal philosophy of revitalization, of restoring, repairing, that's not a mindset that many people have. I'm curious, who has been instrumental in your life and guiding you towards that philosophy?
Mine happened with homes by accident.
Okay.
I was living out north, and was living in an apartment. I'd previously lived in Henderson, but I'd chosen to live in Jackson, so I lived in an apartment out north. And so one day I was just driving through Jackson, and I saw this old house for sale, and I stopped and looked at it and called the realtor, and they met me there. It was in horrible shape. And I said, "Can you show me this house again?" He said, "I tell you what, nobody wants this house. How about if I just give you this key and you look at this all you want to, and when you're done looking at it, you let me know. And you can either buy the house or you can either give me a key back." And so I ended up buying the house, and it's kind of funny. I bought the house for $20,000, and just to show you the level of the repair that needed to be on that house.
Wow.
And so I didn't know it was a historic district. I didn't know, there were a lot of things I did not know about that in 1991. But it gave me an appreciation of the requirements and the expectation level of renovation work.
Sure.
And anyway, John Allen and others that were involved in the construction business were very good in helping me learn how to do stuff, doing stuff for me that they had the expertise in doing. And so from that, I think I'm on house number 12.
Wow.
And with this one I'm doing. And anyway, it's kind of fun. There are times where I'm going, what in the world?
The physical aspect of doing the repairs, but I also believe just the spiritual, philosophical side of just repairing and restoring. I think if each of us could, in some kind of way do that in whatever area in our lives that we can, I think we'll continue to see, like you said, we'll see those themes throughout our lives more intensely.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I go to Skyline Church of Christ, and yesterday our minister said something that just really kind of hit me, because he said we were looking at the Great Commission, and Jesus had assembled the 11. And so Jesus was no longer with them, and the 11 were there, and they had been with Jesus through his teachings, through miracles, through feeding thousands of people, healing the sick, seeing the dead raised, and him being crucified, him being resurrected, and him coming back and teaching them still. And then it says that he gathered them together, and some doubted. And I'm going, how in the world? These people were struggling, and he was about to send them to reach the world, and some of them doubted. And so I'm thinking, there is hope for me. Here are these 11 who've been through all of this and seen such amazing works, and then to get back with the resurrected, living, talking, dead person who was the Messiah. And he, and the writer Matthew says, and some of them doubted. Well, how in the world do you doubt at a time like that?
Yeah.
And so I'm going, they had some repair work to do on their faith.
You're right. And in my experience as a mental health counselor and marriage and family therapist, I've seen families that struggle with doubt, with hope, with all kinds of different issues. And I've also seen how important it is to have healthy relationships in families. And I personally believe that the success of tomorrow's leaders begins with the success of today's families. What do you think about that?
I really do. And the thing that I think are important, relationships are key. It's how I remember growing up and seeing my parents that loved each other. They're in their 63rd year of marriage.
Amazing.
And I was just telling someone today how much I love going home and listening to my father. We get on the Kubota to go to the back of the farm and let my dad just talk.
Yeah.
Let him tell me things that he wants to talk about at the age of 83.
Wow.
And I just want him to talk. And so he just tells me things. And I just want to take that in. Here's someone who, when my parents got married, my mom's parents thought it would never work. They would even have conversations with us the grandchildren, and go, if your parents get a divorce, who are you going to live with?
Oh, my
Me or your other grandparents? But I'm going, here they are, 63 years later. They were children when they got married. And kids got to see them loved, or see them in love with each other, and it's become even greater now at 63 years of marriage. But then to know that my brother and I, we were very different. My parents, to tell us, and I remember them telling me that my brother had talents that were different than mine, but my talents were just as good as his talents. And his talents while he was very different from me, his talents were just as good as my talents. And I think about kids today, and you think about teenage suicide, which is evidently becoming a greater thing than I ever thought it would be.
Yes, sir.
Children having to begin to find themselves, and they may, we live in a different world, and they may sexually have difficulty. Well, somebody needs to tell that kid and let that kid know that you are loved and that God loves you, and let this kid grow up and understand who he is or she is, and then know the love of God. You do spiritual things, but let them never doubt that wherever they are, God loves them. Because, and you've probably found this out to be the case, that as we get older, life begins to make more sense.
That's right.
When I'm a teenager, I'm more concerned about the pimple on my face.
Yes.
Because people may not like me because I'm going, here I am at my age now going, that's not why people love me.
Right.
We have a camp that works with cancer patients called Camp Bluebird. And we take campers, these are adults. Some of them are old. They're in their 70s, 60s and 70s and 80s. And we take some, and we try to let these folks, some are young, but some may be terminal, some may be fighting, some may be in recovery. And we take them there, and the whole point is that we share with them that cancer is not the most important thing in their life.
That's right.
Cancer may be the most urgent, but it is not by a huge amount. It is not the most important. And we tell them that your most important thing is your relationship with God. Then it's your relationship with your family, because you get those two right, and you can handle anything.
I agree.
By the way, you're not getting out of this world alive. So at some point you're going to leave this world. If it's by cancer, accept it. But know that your family loves you and your God loves you. And then you get the rest of it. Don't give cancer the front seat of the car.
Yeah.
You're driving the car. Cancer is urgent. It's not the most important. And so as we get older, we begin to see sometimes we wrestle with things that are not the most important, but they're kind of urgent. And our children need more than anything to know that their parents love them, that people in their church love them. I'm really concerned about the future of churches.
Yeah.
Because I find that churches, we now are preaching, I've noticed in the Jackson Sun today, about the division in the Southern Baptist Conference about two issues, gay and abortion.
Yes.
And that the president is kind of dividing that even further. And what I see is highly concerning to me, because we are allowing the Lord's church to preach unacceptance.
Yes.
That if there are certain things that we are not allowing people to even come close to God, we're preaching that God hates gay people, that God hates abortion. And in my mind, we need to turn that around and go, God loves you.
Yeah.
And get them in touch with the only thing that can make a powerful impact on their life. Because what they're doing is alienating people that need God probably more.
Yes.
They're finding rejection, and they need to find the love of God.
Yes.
And it just really, really concerns me.
And there are lots of people who identify as gay or lesbian that have voiced that same struggle. They feel like they've been rejected, and so why should I go to the church if I can't be accepted?
We had for about a year, we had a Bible study group in downtown at a bar. It was at Miss Ollie's. And we invited the community to come. And it was on a Wednesday night. Every Wednesday night, people would come and they would say the same thing. The church has rejected me because I was divorced.
Wow.
The church has rejected me because I didn't look like, or I didn't meet some expectation And I'm going, that is such a sad commentary that God's people are restricting God's love. Jesus told us that this is how people will know that you are my disciples, is by your love.
That's right.
And I've looked there, especially in a presidential election, the last 5 elections, I've seen more exclusion about who is acceptable in the eyes of God. And it hurts. And we have children growing up that are dealing with these things. And the one thing they need to know more than anything, in my opinion, is that your parents love you and that God loves you. And if you have those two, you can do anything. You can deal with this. Here you are as a young person, and you're rejected by people, and it creates this anger, and you probably know this more than me. They have to deal with that anger for the rest of their life. One of my friends, who ended up dying in a car accident, he would come and talk to me about how his parents rejected him. And here he was, almost 30 years of age, and he was still struggling with the fact that his dad, he thought, did not love him.
Yeah.
And kids do not need to be living with that. They need to know that I love you, no matter what. That I don't care how you look. I don't care. You may be, you are loved. God loves you, and your family will always love you.
And the unfortunate thing is many of our children don't know that, don't feel it, and definitely don't hear it. And as you mentioned earlier about the teen suicides, that's I believe is a part of it, and that's a large part of why I'm starting this podcast, is to engage and create an awareness and start a conversation about the importance of enriching our families. And the children that are born, they're going to someday be leaders in our community, in our nation, and it's important that we develop good adults.
Mm-hmm. And I know in our county we're struggling with the school system and the funding of the school system. Well, I've heard both of our mayors talk about the fact that in our public schools we find the future of our communities, because if we do not educate in an acceptable fashion our kids in our public schools, we are going to have a problem in our public communities, because those children were never educated at the level where they needed to be. And so we've got to start owning some things. And I know we have this big discussion going on about who should be paying for what. Well, we quickly lose sight of where's the child.
Yeah.
And the child is the most important thing. I'm working on a doctorate at the University of Memphis. And one of the things is for a while, you're given these assignments to research and examine and then make presentations about them. And one was about minority children living in multi-generational poverty. And the fact that at some point in their life, if you look at the public school system seems to be centered around middle-class white people.
Okay.
And there are children that do not fit that model.
Of course.
So how do you educate? How do you reach those? Because if you have a middle-aged white person teaching that class, and you have a 3 or 4 generation impoverished minority child, their world is different.
Of course.
Their language is different.
Yes.
Their level of expectation of skin color is completely different. We are now generations apart, we're worlds apart in thinking what's acceptable and what. Someone has to reach that child.
Yeah.
But our educational system is still geared towards middle class white America.
Yeah.
Not how do we reach this other group of kids that is a whole different world, a whole different vocabulary. American history. And he said, something happened with English people that came to America. Because at some point in the history of America, they went from being Englishmen living on another continent to Americans who were no longer British. And their language changed, their allegiances changed, and so they spoke a different language, and they were no longer British citizens. They had developed their own culture, they had their own communities, their own everything. And that's happened in our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And we have people trying to educate the impoverished, and they've been too long away from the middle-class white community, and it doesn't resonate with them. But someone has to get to them.
That's right.
Because every child wants to learn. Every child.
Yeah.
There are basic things every child wants to do. Every child wants to learn. Every child wants to sing. Every child wants to play. Every child wants to act. Every child wants to do these things. But they're different cultures, and we've kind of forgotten that. And anyway, that get off my soapbox about education.
I just appreciate these topics being brought up and again, conversations being generated, because our children are hurting and our children need to be taught. And we can't compete with China and all these other countries until we can start educating and start supporting our families in the communities that they live in.
Yes.
Well, Frank, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I greatly appreciate it.
It's a pleasure talking with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you
for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. I do appreciate your support.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, as well as providing a rating and review. Every week, I will interview a different leader and invite them to share with us their views and perspective on the relationship between leadership and family. Be sure to visit my website. It's www.alvinbonds2nd.com. That's ALVINBONDSII.com. Have a great day.